blackdoctor.org, family and friends. I'm Dr. Rhonda Mattox, fellowship trained, board certified psychiatrist, president of the Arkansas Medical, Dental, and Pharmaceutical Association, and I'm the host of I'm Not Crazy But show. Welcome to this edition. On the I'm Not Crazy But show, we are exploring all those issues that follow the but. You know, those topics that include mental health, mental illness, emotional wellness. And today, family, we are talking Black men. We are with Black men talking Black love reimagined, the myth, the legend, the reality. Now, when I think of Black love, I think of Heathcliff and Claire. I think of Michelle and Barack Obama. I think of family reunions, sweet tea, lemonade, outside playing spades, playing dominoes. You know the drill. When I was growing up, I always thought of Black love as romance. But the older I got, the more I realized that Black love sometimes looked like cleaning up behind your snotty-nosed kids who are sick. Sometimes it looked like helping your father or your parents as they transitioned. But all the time, it looked like perhaps long-suffering and kindness. It looked like action. As I am introducing our guest, I want you to understand when we're talking with these Black men, and talking Black love reimagined, the myth, the legend, the reality, they are going to drop some golden nuggets on you. And I want all of your friends to know and hear what they're about to say. They don't need to say, why didn't you tell me? So go ahead and begin to share. Drop your names and the cities that you represent in the comments, and let's get this party started. I will begin with our guests, who they are. The Virgil Curry, CEO of Vision Centric Incorporated in Huntsville, Alabama. Quincy Graggs, student doctor at the University of Arkansas Medical Sciences and the president of the Student National Medical Association. Evan Hicks, medical student extraordinaire at UAMS, who triple majored in biology, chemistry, and physics, and is a McNair scholar. I'm not going to talk about what everyone else majored in. I just thought it was right nice to talk about the fact that this guy was triple majored. I was quite impressed. And my dear friend, Randall Harper, who is an independent benefit in South Carolina. And so, family, we're just going to jump right in. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you guys doing today?
It's a good day.
All right, it's a good day. And I'll have you mute until you start talking, so we can hear the racket in your background. Now, so that we can get on the same page, let's begin with what I told you what my definition of Black love is. As the only Black woman on this platform, man, I know there are some ladies out there who are jealous of me today, but let's all come under the same language. When I say Black love, I've told you what it means to me. What does Black love mean to you? And is this even a concept? Last week when we were talking to the Black women, I had people who were Nigerian Americans and Jamaican Americans, and they talked about the fact that Black love was not even a concept with them because their countries and their islands were all Black. So it was just love. So for you all, is this just an American concoction that we've come up? What is Black love, and is that such a thing?
I guess I'll go ahead and kick it off. When I think of Black love, I think of like cocoa butter kisses, shea butter, my mama doing my hair on the weekend, candy yams, macaroni, make sure I'm fed. You want me to fix you a plate, baby? That's Black love to me. Something that's warm, down to earth, unconditional. Something that is not replicated by many.
I like it. And you're talking my love language when you said food and cocoa butter. That's good. That's good, Quincy. Anyone else want to jump in?
I can go next. To me, Black love is just about embracing your existence, your culture, everything between two Black people. I mean, I think it's more than just a concept. I think it's a reality. When being an African American, homes have been separated systematically. So it is such a unique experience for a Black man and a Black woman to come together and say, hey, we're going to love each other and we're going to ride this thing out. So it's just about embrace. It's about embracement and commitment. And that's what it means to me.
All right. Anyone else want to jump in?
Well, in my perspective, being a little bit older, you get a chance to see a whole array of a different type of expression of love. But if I had to summarize it, I would summarize it as family, the Black family. The true expression and definition of Black love is in a well taken care of Black family, to include the male.
I like. Me too.
Okay,
Randall?
Yes. I'm a little bit older as well, and to me, Black love is unconditional love. You may or may not speak to your brothers, your sisters, your parents 3 months, 6 months, but you know you have their back. You know they have your back. Same thing with cousins, particularly first cousins. You may not talk to a first cousin for 4 or 5 years. One phone call, you're right there for them.
Yeah. And so Black love is starting with Black family. It's embracing your Black culture. It sounds like it's a safe place where you get to be your authentic self, who you are. You don't have to put on any airs and that kind of stuff or whatever. And so the first place that you experience that is in the home. And it's interesting because we talked about the highest version of what Black love looks like in our minds. And yet our realities many times look really different. And it can impact how we show up in the world. How has your Black love impacted how you show up in the world, in your relationships, or even in your communities? And I asked that question because I can remember bringing home my first B in the second grade by Mrs. Crane in reading. Okay, now the fact that I don't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday, but I remember that B in reading by Mrs. Crane. I remember that reading because it came with a spanking. And my mother said to me, "You are the only Black person that some people will ever see." And she put the weight of the Black world on my 7-year-old shoulders and let me know that I was representing Black culture in the second grade with that B. And so how did your Blackness impact how you showed up in the world? Because from that point on, it meant I needed to make all A's. It meant I needed to represent the culture. But how did it show up with you all?
Well, I'll go first. With me, it started with my dad. My dad loves sports. So me and my brother and my sister, we all love sports. We love the same sports team as my dad. So to me, that was just want to emulate your dad in that standpoint.
Yeah. Okay. So you're emulating what's important to them.
Right.
You know, I emulated academics. Sports became important. Anything else you want to jump in?
Well, again, I'll go back to the Black family, and what I'm gonna say is that, you know, some family are privileged, and all the necessary building blocks are there for you to be successful, but that's not necessarily the case in Black families. There's many Black families that doesn't have those building blocks. But the one thing they do have is the love and support of their family members. And we all know that when you're young and you go out of the house for the first time, whether it's school or to the playground, there's a lot of naysayers about who you are and what you can do and what you can't do and all that kind of stuff. But it's the family base that grounds you and keep you straight. And when you do step out, that's the first element that will pull you back into the side of righteousness. So again,
family. Now, you know, I can't stay on the Black family very long without getting into dating the dating scene. And if I don't get into the dating scene, I'm going to be in trouble with all the women who are listening today. So let me pivot and say, with what you've seen in your Black families, how has that shaped what you want in your partner? How is that influenced for the better or perhaps for the worse? How's what you've seen in your family influenced what you want in a woman or in your partner?
I'll go ahead and start. I was raised by a single mom, so naturally I was a mama's boy growing up. And I think to a certain degree that may have made me have unrealistic expectations, but I do have high expectations out of what I want from my partner. And I am older now, so I know how to make them realistic. But I just know what unconditional Black love from a Black woman is supposed to look like. And I was like I was the only grandson for a very long time. So even from my grandmother, I guess another type of Black love from a Black grandmother. So my expectations on how I want to be treated are high. But also I say one of the big marriages and one of the most influential people in my life are my grandparents. So I see how their love has stood the test of time. And I know how I want my love to stand the test of time.
Absolutely. I love it. Anyone else want to jump in there?
I can comment as well. I'm recently married, and these things are on my mind a lot. And I can say, just like similar to Quincy, my mom was a single mom. However, when I was 13, she went back to school to get her PhD in psychology. And I believe being surrounded by women like my mom really influenced my view of what a woman and a partner is capable of. There's no shame in being a successful Black man and saying, hey, me and my woman, we're about to go get it together. I believe that in some ways it's, it can be asking a lot. However, I think it can also, push you and your partner to motivate each other and say, hey, this is what we can do together because we've seen this play out. And I believe that those experiences really shaped whenever I was dating and what I wanted to consider.
Great points.
Mm-hmm.
Now to the marriage. Go ahead.
What was that question?
It is about how your Black love has impacted what you want in your mate, your partner.
I'll kind of piggyback on what Evan was saying, and that when you're looking for a partner, when I was looking for a partner, you want to find someone you're compatible with at the same time. When you recognize differences, allow that person to be that person, and hopefully that person will allow you to be who you are. So when you see the weaknesses, hopefully you're strong in that area, and vice versa.
I like. Okay, so since I'm still in the dating arena at this point, it's a different game. So when you go about picking a mate, some of the things that I look for, well, I first start off by saying love is not one single thing. It's a compilation of many different things. So you have to really look and see which one of those things are the most important to you. Now that I've said that, at this point in life, my perspective is a little different. And I'm going to say what I said earlier. I'm going to look at the family, her family, my family, because at this point, our family have to integrate and be comfortable with one another. So it does matter. Then the second thing that I'm going to look at is finance. We've been around long enough. We should be where we are going to be at this point in life. Unlike, Evan, you guys are, they got everything in front of you. And that's beautiful. That's really beautiful. But, I've done what I'm going to do pretty much. So I want someone that has done what they're going to do. I'm not necessarily about your potential in finance. Either you're there or you're not. And then again, respect. Love is built off of mutual respect as well. And so whatever that balance is for me and her, it need to be at the top of what's important. And then, that's achieved through great communication. I got to have somebody I can talk to. And you got to be able to listen. A lot of people start answering questions before you even finish the sentence. To me, that's a killer. Hear what I got to say, and then I'll listen to you. But those are just some things on top. Now, you've noticed I didn't say a whole lot about sex because at this point, believe it, it's different, and there's still a lot of people out there that if that's what you seek, it's pretty easy to do. So that's kind of the way I evaluate at this point in life. And again, I am at a different point in life.
Yeah. So it's interesting where we had our families are going to merge, respect, those kinds of things, compatibility. When I was growing up, my mom said to me, look at how a man treats his mother and his sisters, and glean from that. If they don't like their mama, they don't like their sisters, they don't like women, but they're treating you good, you're gonna bear the brunt of some of that anger one day. What do you think about that? Because for me, and the other thing was, it was don't marry for love. Everybody gets married, they all in love, but love don't pay the rent, and all these people getting divorced with their loving selves. Her counsel was to marry someone who respected you and who treated their parents well. I have taken that with me. I loved how my husband treated his family, his cousins, his sisters. What do you think about that counsel of paying attention to how men treat their sisters and their mothers? Is there any truth in that? She did. You can disagree with it if you want to.
I was gonna say I treat my mom and sister good, so I'm gonna go ahead and say that is true. I like to believe that I am a good man, but I do think it's some truth, simply for the fact that for most people, those are the first female interactions they have. And I'm not gonna say everybody in here, everybody in the world has a perfect mom or perfect family situation. So I think there are probably some exceptions, but for most people, when you learn to love a woman, when you think about the idea of a woman, you do think about your mom and your sister first. And when you posed that question, it made me start thinking about like the trend of black men who don't like to date black women, and that always makes me think, what's going on with the relationship between them and their mom? But that's my spill on that.
Oh, you brought it in. I'm going to have to circle back to that after they weigh in. Carry on. What do you all think? That was good.
Oh, no, you can go.
I personally think if you don't treat your mom and your sister well, you're probably not a good human being. That's just my humble opinion.
All right. You heard it here.
I definitely believe that there's some validity to it. I think there's exceptions, but it's an easy way to filter out what you want no part of. Mm-hmm. So do you have the time to stick around and figure out why he happens not to treat other women in his life poorly? Because, at that point, it's your own risk. But it is a very good way to filter out some stuff and say, you know what, that's kind of a red flag.
Mm-hmm. I know. I'm interested now. My background is I'm a psychiatrist, so I heard Virgil talk about communication being everything, and I will say communication is everything. But notice that many times in the Black family, particularly in those of us who are a little bit more seasoned and mature, children were to be seen and not heard. So you were not supposed to question your parents. You weren't supposed to advise in many families of your opinions. And so all of a sudden we graduate and we get out of the house, and all of a sudden we're supposed to have an opinion and we're supposed to communicate. But we've been discouraged from communicating before that. And so with that caveat, I would say I think it's really important for someone to be willing to be teachable and to consider therapy, premarital therapy beforehand, so that you can get to some of those things. I will, because I know some mothers who have been had interesting practices. I definitely understand some sons who have interesting practices, because that's what I do. But when that is the case, if you have someone who will not go to therapy, I, I would see that as a red flag and think that this is going to be a problem, for sure. So how I had a very wise person tell me that women marry for potential, what the man can be, and men marry for right now, how they look, how they make them feel, what da 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 da. And that is a recipe for a very bad combination. Women marrying for potential and men marrying for right now. They don't factor in what the body's going to look like after the baby, after the cancer, after a long day's work, after the kids. What do you all think about what I just said, and what is your counsel to your young brothers as they are choosing who they should connect with on a meaningful level? Mm-hmm.
I was thinking that we let the older gentleman comment first.
Oh, I love it. This is a wise man right here. Okay, older gentleman, what say you?
I'll take a stab at it. I'm going to piggyback on what Virgil said earlier. To me, dating in your 20s and 30s is different when you're 40 or 50. For example, in my 20s, please don't judge me when I say this. In my 20s, I would not date a lady that had a kid. If I was single now, at my age, if I was single, I would prefer to marry a woman with kids. There's no pressure to produce. So I think age appropriate maybe may apply here.
That's so interesting, 'cause I never thought about that. Because I can relate being in my 20s, particularly focusing on a career. I never would have seriously considered, oh, let me date a woman with a child.
Mm-hmm.
Versus the perception when you're 40 or 50, that might be a little more settled.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mm.
Well, that kind of goes back to what I kind of introduced earlier, and that is, as you get older, the priorities of what you want changes. When I was 20, I knew what I wanted. She was young, good-looking, nice body, beautiful smile. Hey, if she didn't really know much, that didn't really matter that much, because it wasn't like a permanent thing. But as you start to maneuver through life, and you start saying, what kind of woman do I want to bear my children? Then it looks a whole lot different, And when you get older in life, you have to live with those decisions that you made,
Yes.
knowing that that youthfulness is not going to always be there. So that's where the respect and the communication come back in. You got to maintain that throughout your relationship. It's not a one and done deal, and that's where the work come in. But I will put a caveat on it, and I would tell you, going back to what Randall said, for young women, it's interesting, but that's it. If a woman, this is just me and my logic, if a woman hadn't been married and with no kids, I'm more likely not to want to engage in a meaningful conversation. And there's reasons why. It's just that at this point in life, you deal with reality and you don't deal with as much fantasy stuff. So that's my thought.
I heard a very wise man tell me one time that he wanted a divorced woman. And I said, are you looking for a woman with self-esteem issues? And he said, no, I'm looking for a woman who is grounded in reality, who does not think I'm her knight in shining armor and who does not have unrealistic expectations for me completing her. She broken, I'm broken, we broken, and we are enjoying each other, but they don't have any unrealistic expectations of me. And I was so like taken aback by that answer because it was shocking to me, but I absolutely loved it. Many times we do have these unrealistic expectations of what things will be, and particularly if your parents fought behind closed doors, so you didn't see them fighting, you just saw them being happy, or you were raised by a single parent, and so your idea of Black love is Claire and Heathcliff. Then you haven't seen the you haven't seen the down and dirty and everything. Now I just want to draw your attention to our chat is going crazy. Aaron Lett says, that's good. It's very interesting to me as well why Black men don't like dating Black women. I wonder about that. My own brother, cousins, etc., because I know their moms and grandmother loved and cared for them in a great way. And so they also liked, agree with that. How do they treat their own folks? Are they helpful? Are they quarrelsome? Are they listening, understanding, willing to compromise? We have some really good comments in here. Thank you, family. For those of you who are just tuning in, we're talking with Black men about Black love reimagined, the myth, the legend, the reality. Please share this with your friends. And if you came in late, share it with yourself so you can go back and hear some of the replay. Now, as we are having this conversation about the reality and the unrealistic expectations for those who have been married or who are just now getting married, how do you, and I don't want to say make it work, but I'm going to say invest in it and pour into it such that when it's the mundane and just the reality, it's not the going out to flowers. We just celebrated Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't look like rose petals on a bed. It looks like doing laundry. It looks like, how do you still keep it fresh and exciting when life is happening? Evan, this question is not for you yet. Randall?
That's what I was wondering.
Okay.
You get to answer second or third.
Okay. I'm going to kind of answer this in two ways. You mentioned earlier about counseling. I will say this, Evan. I've been married 13 years. We probably started going to counseling probably year 5 or 6. The absolute best thing we could do. In my humble opinion, Black people should go to counseling once a year minimum with a professional counselor. Nothing wrong with your pastor, but professional counseling is like night and day to what you're going to get in your church. And it's no knock on the pastor. Let me be clear about that. It's just like your car. You service your car every year. Why don't you service your marriage every year? That's just my opinion.
And I'll throw in and say 4 times a year. And the reason I'm going to say 4 times a year, and one of the things, the misperceptions about therapy and counseling is you think you have to hit rock bottom in order to go. And I really want to challenge that perception because just as Randall said, you get your car serviced, but if you think about it, every 3 months, one of you probably had something stressful happen at work. Maybe somebody's died, maybe some in-laws have had some issues or something, and you could use the benefit of non-biased set of ears. Now, I know we got a lot of folks who say, I'm going to talk to the Lord, I'm going to take it to Jesus, or you're going to talk to your friends. Well, the thing about friends is this, they change. So your friends have changed. When they get mad at you or your spouse, then they're not paid for HIPAA. They're not bound by confidentiality. So you end up seeing your business on Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, whatever the going social media platform is, or they're just really taking what you shared out of context or in context. And they haven't forgiven your spouse, but you have, and you've moved on. And now they're throwing stuff up in your face. And they don't forget stuff, And your mama gonna tell your sisters, Nim. And if you don't know who Nim is, it's and them. They gonna tell it. And even if they say they're not going to tell, they're going to tell one person who's going to tell one person who's going to tell one person, and your business is out there. So family, do your marriages some favors and get some counseling. And even if you're divorced, and yeah, this is free. Even if you're divorced, get some counseling so you can treat the parents, your spouse, right, and give your child permission to love the other parent. That was free. For those of you who are listening, please don't demonize these children's father or mother. They need them. Give them permission to love their parents because their parents are a reflection of them. I've been wanting to say that. Thank you all for giving me this opportunity to say that. All right. Evan or Virgil, what say you? You probably don't even remember the question anymore, do you?
Well, yes. But if you restate it, that would help. Because I was listening to what you were saying. I mean, really. So, but
yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I don't remember the question either. You just Randall, what was the question?
All right, everyone. Hey, that's the disadvantage with being older. You know.
I might need to just move on to the next question.
Yeah.
Well, my next question is, what are some deal breakers? Oh, no. How do you keep it spicy? How do you keep it fresh? I do.
Okay.
Yeah. You're just doing the mundane. How do you keep it spicy? How do you keep it fresh?
Oh, well, in that case, yeah, I think, again, what I've learned, by trials and error is that you got to be able to communicate, and the person has got to be honest with you about what they want and what they like. And you got to be the same way. I ain't gonna say number one, but among the top thing is something Randall said earlier, and that is, the unconditional stature of doing things for people is never more true than when you're in a relationship. And it's got to be something you want to do. And you got to learn to want to do them, because sometimes they're not naturally that way. But I receive well. And when people do things or say things that are unconditional, that makes me happy, I'm very appreciative. So I would like to, return those type of activities. So if you can get in a rhythm of giving first, sometimes you receive some pretty good things. So
yeah, I like that. Evan, you want to jump in and add anything? And it's okay if you don't.
No, I do. I want to piggyback off of that. I agree. One thing that I've been learning in, my young relationship is that, sometimes it helps to know the language that your partner speaks, and go ahead and speak it. Don't resist it. Or they're like, hey, I communicate by gifts, or I like compliments, or I like this. Spend less time wondering like, well, it was easier doing what I was doing. Like, go ahead and, well, you know what? You like compliments, I'm gonna compliment you. When you're doing a good job, I'm gonna tell you doing a good job. You like flowers, I'm gonna get you flowers. And so that's one thing that I found is like, it can keep things going. And then I'm a young man. I tell my friends all the time, all that game you had when you were, playing around with everybody else, it don't stop when you get married. Flirt with her too. Make her feel special too. All the energy you got for so-and-so, go ahead and divert that back. Like all them tactics, they don't stop. She wants the little, she wants the wink. She wants to smile too. She want to feel special too. All of that. And so, but I'm young. I still got the energy. I can still chase you around the house.
I love what he said. Listen, ladies, if you're listening, I want you to send this to the fellas and then sit there with them and watch it, because they need to hear what Evan and Randall and Virgil and Quincy just said, but particularly that do that. I'll tell my husband and I have been married. This will be 20 years or whatever. And I'll let him know, the fella at the office is noticing that I have new lipstick on and notice how my hair smells. You're going to need to up your game over here, Mr. Cantankerous One, get your life together, because sister still got it, So you have to realize that your partner still has it. And when they leave you with whatever it is that you're doing at home, whatever you're fussing about, they are going to work with somebody who is noticing their lipstick, noticing those muscles bulging and all that. And when they walk through the door, don't let the first thing you say be, did you take out the trash or whatever it is? You better flirt and do some things or whatever. Keep it spicy. I like it. Now, if you were, what counsel would you give to women who are in the dating scene, looking for meaningful relationships, not Netflix and chill, no Netflix and chill, but not you, but your friends, not you, of course, but your friends. If they were dating some of your friends, now some folks, I tell my friends when they say I want to meet, no, you don't. I'm not introducing my friends to some of these fellas in my family or what have you, because I like you too much and they don't mean you well. But what would you tell the ladies who are interested in your friends? And I want you to still be friends with these fellas afterwards, but your friends or Quincy and Virgil, what would you tell them? How to approach you? What to do? Do you want them to shoot their shot and come after you? Or do you want to hunt? What do you want? Because we're in a different generation. And my mother's counsel probably would not suffice for this generation's counsel. And we got two different generations. So what are you telling each generation?
I'll say first off, just because the day and age we live in, you have to be very particular how you approach people both ways. So I say for women, just learn how to flirt, just so the guys know that you are consenting, you want that to happen. You want them to shoot their shot. If you are the type of person like, I want the man to take the lead, just let them know that it's okay. Because we're not always gonna be in a situation where we didn't been around each other for weeks and we know that it's okay. You're not gonna be offended if you say X, Y, and Z. So I say learn how to flirt back, give us some signs, give us some tips. Or I guess we live in this age, you're not scared. You can just be direct. Most dudes, we know if we want you or not. We're not gonna care.
So what he just said, Quincy's what you just said, tap you on the shoulder, touch a little bit, some flirtation. Is that what I'm hearing, or am I hearing something else when you say flirt? Does flirt look like,
that's what I'm talking about? Like laugh at my jokes a little bit harder. Make I got bet your eyes, do something. Okay. I don't know. Just say I smell good. Say I smell good. That's gonna be kind of you
compliments.
Smell good. Okay. Yeah.
Physical touch. I just want to make sure we're all clear. I don't want you to have to read between the lines, lady. What about you, Virgil?
Well, for me, it's femininity. I like a woman, and what I mean by that is the way she dressed, the way she smelled, the way she carried herself. I think it's okay to be soft sometimes. The thing that I usually get turned off on real quick is a professional, strong woman, obviously, that says, I don't need a man, but I like to have one, or, I can do this by myself. Once I hear those words, I'm pretty much done, because I need somebody that needs me, and I'm a man. So that's kind of like the anchor thing. I like women, so it's okay being a soft, tender woman. You don't have to be weak to be that, but you need to exert that, even if you're the strongest person on earth.
All right.
My opinion.
Okay. So we have femininity, do a little flirting, a little eye action, a little physical touch. I know my husband and I were somewhere. We were in DC, and we were standing at the cross station, and a woman just walked up and handed him her card. And I thought it was somebody he worked with or whatever. And it wasn't. It was just a random woman handing my husband her card. Is that cool now? For he didn't know her. Is that a thing now to where it's okay to just like roll up, shoot your shot, hand the card over, and be like, hey, call me? Is that in vogue?
I think that's dope. I like that because I mean you gotta be straightforward. You gotta get straight to the point. No small talk. She was like, this my number. You know where to find me. I think
All
that's
right.
dope. I think that's dope.
Virgil, I'm not going to ask you that question. I feel like we already might have an idea. Evan, I will ask you, in your single days, was that cool?
I was about to say, because for my wife, them fighting words.
No, I'm saying when you were single, I mean, you guys probably met in high school, but when you were single, would that have been welcome? That a level of assertiveness, would that have been
Absolutely.
welcome? Okay.
Absolutely. I don't feel like there's one set way to do anything, particularly like in our day and age. I mean, the world is so much smaller. It almost seems like with social media, there's so many more people. So there's so many different things you can do to get somebody's attention and show them your interest. As a man, it always makes you feel good when a woman lets her intentions be known. When it is a little straightforward, like, hey, I want da 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 da. Because that lets you know, like, okay, you are interested in me, and it's not a misinterpretation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, spice it up. Any way it's got to get done. I'm usually pro that.
Okay. Now, where so this is good because I feel like sometimes there's a little bit of a generational divide in what some people want. Now I'm gonna shift. I'm gonna be a little messy because this is outside of my character, but I had a 40-ish woman tell me, we were talking about the dating pool, and she said, hey, there's pee in the dating pool. Okay. There's urine in the dating pool, and the dating pool don't smell good, and it's nasty right now. All right. And and then of course growing up, I heard, black men, men are dogs, all of them. Now, my Oliver Twist is a dog. He is loyal. He's a good dog. And I take offense at somebody trying to associate a bad man with a good dog. I take offense at that. But you all know your friends and you know yourselves. What you think about what do you think is making women think the dating pool got pee in it? And what should they do to chlorinate that dating pool so they can have some good options?
I have this discussion on a regular basis with black women, black men, just probably every week at this point. I say one, I will admit it is harder for black women to date than black men just for a numbers thing. Like especially black women are more educated than black men. If you're trying to find somebody on your level, it's going to be just proportionally speaking, it's going to be harder. The dog situation, I always wanted to point out the fact that men, to a certain degree, we're raised to be dogs. We're raised to be predators. We're raised to go on the prowl, date. And I will say this: most women want a man with experience. I'm not making that up. Most women don't want a corny individual. Some do, but most don't want the corny. They want to have a little bit of edge on them. So we go out there and get that experience. But I wouldn't say we're dogs. I feel like to a certain degree, at certain different points in our life, we are concerned about different things. So we might not want to settle down exactly when they settle down. We might not want to start a family exactly when they start a family. And just in that sense, it can look like, we are dogs because we're not on the same page. But when we get on the same page, when we're with somebody we're serious about, we are the loyal dog, as you put it. We are the loyal ones. The fleas done got off us. We got the collar on. We're going home at night. We're doing everything. But I think a lot of times people might be forcing men to be in relationships who don't really want to be with them, and they hold on to hope, and then therefore they in a bad situation.
That's good. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as you're watching this, I'm paying attention to the chat. So drop your questions in the chat. We're about 15 minutes out. So if you want me to ask them a question, drop it in the chat, and I'll ask. Okay. Anybody else want to add that? That was some good counts. That was some good insight you offered there, Quincy. Anyone else want to address that?
Yeah,
Yes.
I want to jump in. Oh, go ahead.
I'll go after you, Virgil.
No, go.
So I'll piggyback on what Quincy said, and don't take this lightly. I think a lot of professional women overlook blue collar men, and there's some very, very good blue collar Black men that they overlook. And I get it. Everybody, if you're a doctor, you want someone at your level high. I get it, but sometimes they're overlooking very, very good men.
You are absolutely right. There are a couple of people that come to my mind when you said that. So you're absolutely right. Virgil, what were you going to add?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think Quincy hit a lot of good points there, and that is that our female population, generally speaking, is higher educated than our male population. That's just a fact. So if you're a female and you waiting until you get 45 to look for that man, that 45-year-old man that you're looking for is probably already taken, and you're gonna have to move up on the scale a little bit more, or in terms of age, or you're gonna have to move down a little bit more in terms of skill set. There's nothing wrong being professionally focused. It's a amazing thing, but when you get to the top of your mountain, there ain't gonna be too many people standing on top looking to see where you're at. So it's a trade-off. And I think the reason they call them dogs is because at that point, that's really might be all that's left,
And here's the thing. People will talk about they always meet the same men. And my husband is a fisherman. When, he likes to fish. And so when he's going after certain types of fish, there's a certain bait that he uses. When he's going after bigger fish, there's another bait that he uses. And so, perhaps if you are catching the same fish and you don't want that fish anymore, choose a different bait. Yeah. All right. Choose a different bait. Now, what makes for, you talked about, Randall, blue collar man. For me, I was looking for someone who was going to treat me right. Now, I started out with a list of a checklist. My list was long, family. Oh my gosh, it was so long. And I got everything on my list. I really did. As a result, though, now, one of the things that I will say is I had someone who didn't like their in-laws. So on my list was get along well with mother and in-laws, because they can be the undoing of a relationship. I had on my list could hang out with folks from the outhouse to the White House. I wanted them to be nimble and be able to, be mobile and hang out with different folks. I didn't want any uppity folk, because you got some snooty people in your family, and then you got some June bugs. I want June bug to feel comfortable in your presence. And so it's about family as well. How much would you say, now that was my perception, how important is your family and their family in your in your assessment of, is this a person you would consider being serious about? Because there's some people that you take home to mama, and there's certain people that you might introduce to your boys, but you're not taking them home to mama. And yeah, we're live, but you can go ahead and tell the honest answer. We'll edit this out. Wink, wink. We're not. Go ahead and tell the truth, though.
Well, it's like I said earlier, I think family is very important in terms of selecting the person that I'm going to be with, because they do have a tremendous impact on your decision making. And so, yeah, I have children. They're grown, but I have children, and it's important that my children get along with the person that I'm with. It's not a deal breaker, but it does put a whole lot of stress on the situation. So I'm gonna try to make sure that's a match best I can.
I can be honest. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I can be honest from the in-law standpoint. I've seen a lot of crazy things concerning, in-laws and whatnot. And, sometimes people of a different generation act a certain way, and, boundaries are crossed. And I'm somebody that believes that you can 100% have a thriving relationship with a partner or a spouse without having that with in-laws, if you all communicate those things. And if you're with somebody that doesn't have to have that, that's, I believe, is more of a communication. If you're with somebody that's like, oh, we want to have Sunday dinners every Sunday and da 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 da, and then it's like, okay, well, that might not be realistic. I think that's more about the individual relationship at hand, because some people are perfectly fine not being buddy. Other people are not. So I think that it all depends on that relationship.
Absolutely. And sometimes the best thing that you can do for your relationship is not engage. No, that's not ideal. But as a psychiatrist, of course, I have some examples in my toolbox of people who it was a great boundary for them to set because their families were undermining their relationships. And so it can be challenging to come to that conclusion. And many times it takes a lot to get there, a lot of sabotage that has happened, but it can happen. So being on the same page is definitely, it should definitely be a priority. Quincy, were you about to say something? It seems like somebody else was about to say something. Randall, you're unmuted, so maybe it was you.
Oh, no.
I was just going to speak on the portion where you were just mentioning, like, what makes you want to bring somebody home to your family or versus to hang out with your friends. And I was just going to speak if I'm about to marry them and nothing less, because I'm not going to have to repeat why we aren't together if it doesn't work out. So I got to kind of go ahead and see. And even with my friends, I'm not just going to introduce this to somebody who might not work out. So I have to be sure on you, because if I introduce you to my family, I'm basically saying, hey, this is what we about to be incorporated into.
I'm with you. Listen, I introduced somebody to my dad and my uncles at 16. We were about to go out on a date. My dad said, what are your intentions with my daughter? I didn't take anybody else home to meet my dad until I was about to get married. He didn't meet anybody for the next nearly 20 years. He didn't meet anybody else because, I was like, this is pressure. This is too much pressure for me. Anyone else want to talk about what makes them want to take a woman home to meet their mom other than about to get married? But Quincy, those were great points. I certainly agree with you. Evan, did I see you unmute?
I mean, I unmuted, but I agree with Quincy. You can't meet mama unless I'm about to marry you. Mom, that's mama, grandma, as we
Can they
move
meet your
on
sister?
up.
Can they meet the sister?
I mean, look, my sister might she might not like her. You never know. I mean, but your sister might tell me something about you. She might be like, nah, Evan, I don't like the way. But mama and grandma, that's reserved.
Yeah. Listen, I didn't introduce people to my dad, but I would introduce them to my brother. And I remember I was dating someone and we looked perfect and on paper. And so he was a good guy. My brother said, nope, I vetoed him. I was like, why not? He said, you were too nice around him. You can't keep that stuff up. That act is not going to last. So my brother had, he was like, you're a nice guy, but you too nice around him.
See, that's good advice. What it takes to get her is what it takes to keep her.
That's exactly. So you might want to have another set of eyes look at the person so they can give you a little bit of insight, because sometimes you may be glossed over with the Coca-Cola body or some of the tactics that they use, but your sister or your cousin, game will peep game and realize no, you go ahead.
No, that's interesting because, I'm sitting on the other side of the table now, and I have one daughter, and she's married and happily married, and and all that, and that's great. But when she was dating, I kind of had a philosophy that if you were going to date my daughter, you need to pick her up. And if you picked her up, you wasn't going to drive by and blow the horn and she come out. You was going to get out of that car and you was going to come see me. And I would get an impression of who you are. But more importantly, if you wasn't serious, you probably wouldn't come by. So it was kind of a beacon to her in terms of the kind of guy that she was dating. You didn't want to come, that's fine. But just know what you're getting right now. Because like these young men said, if they're very serious about you, they'll come into the castle. You know what I mean? They'll try to slay the dragon. That's and I'm just saying it from a different perspective as a father. Young men need to come in, and the most important part of that was because when I was young and I was exposed to those type of standards, it made me treat the girl totally different, because I had someone else to answer to other than her. And as a young man, sometimes that's necessary.
That's good. So now I didn't get to date when I was at home. I didn't get to date until I left. So I don't even know what you're talking about. That was a part of why I graduated at 16, so I could date, because I wasn't going to be able to date till I was 30 if I stayed home. So those are really, that's great. Now, Virgil introduced the element of his daughter. What counsel would you tell your daughters to be? I think he's the only person on here who has a daughter right now. What counsel would you give your future daughters about dating to marry, or just dating responsibly?
Actions speak louder than words, because guys, we can say exactly what they want to hear. We can be exactly who they want to be. And the potential thing, sometimes we ain't even got to say it. They just see the potential in us. They don't even care about our actions. They'll just stay because they think we're going to end up being better than we really are. So actions speak louder than words. And don't trust any guy. Don't trust them. Just don't trust them immediately. Let them earn the trust. Don't assume we're all dogs until proven innocent.
I like that. Assume all dogs till proven innocent. Don't trust, make them earn the trust. As we're rolling out, Evan, what's your counsel to your daughters, or to to your future daughter about dating responsibly?
At the end of the day, if you're gonna date, be honest with yourself and don't trust anybody that lies to themselves. If you don't like somebody, be honest about it. Or if you're just dating them because you want a quick link up, don't make it any more than what it was. If that's the reason you're interested in somebody, be honest with yourself, no shame. But don't trust anybody that's going to sit there and lie to you about what they're clearly doing as well. That is a red flag. Don't trust anybody that lies to themselves. That's dangerous.
All right. Randall.
I pretty much agree with everything the gentleman said before me. I would probably add, to me, it's better if you can get introduced to someone by a friend that knows that person, a friend that knows you. They know what you like. They know what you're capable of. And last but not least, I would not feel this way 10 years ago. Social media. Put a number, what an inside to
All right.
Like, of course, you got to go ahead and. I'm sorry.
You went out into a zone, so we didn't hear you. We didn't hear the last part where you said, if you want to summarize it again.
Yeah, some of the dating sites, the serious dating sites, you kind of get to see who the person is. And as Quincy mentioned, you still assume they're a dog until they prove they're not. It's great advice.
Okay. All right. And Virgil, you've already told us. Thank you all for joining us for this episode of I'm Not Crazy, but I am trying to date responsibly. I'm trying to love responsibly. I think we've had some great counsel. This is one that you want us to share and go back and watch again. I thank each of you for sharing your nuggets. I would say, echo what they said, make them earn your trust. And definitely look at their social media platforms. What they say is who they want to be. What they do is what they are. So pay attention to actions. They speak much louder than words. Until next time, thank you all for tuning in faithfully each and every Thursday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Central Standard Time and 12 to 1 Eastern Time. Share this with your friends. This is the good stuff. Step outside of your comfort zone and make an impact. And step outside your comfort zone and consider that your type might not be the right type for you. Open the door and consider some other options. Bye-bye. Thank you, family.